Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back to the History AI podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today, we're journeying back to early America to explore the life and times of the renowned Shawnee leader, Tecumseh.
Ah yes, Tecumseh. The name I would have named my son if my wife had let me.
And why's that?
Because Tecumseh was a remarkable individual with a vision and tenacity. Plus, how cool would it be to have a kid named after such an icon?
Fair point. Let's dive right in, shall we?
To understand Tecumseh, we first need to discuss his early life. He was born in 1768 in what's now Ohio. And just like most of us, a lot of who he became was shaped by his family.
Absolutely. His father, Puck Shinwa, was a Shawnee war leader, and his mother, Methoatask, belonged to the Creek tribe. Tragically, his father was killed in the Battle of Point Pleasant when Tecumseh was just a young boy.
That's right. And it wasn't just the family's warrior lineage that influenced him. Tecumseh's older brother, Tenskwatawa, known as the Prophet, had visions that pushed the Shawnee to return to their ancestral practices and reject European influences.
Speaking of talents, Tecumseh wasn't just a warrior. He was also an impressive orator, a diplomat, and a visionary leader. He could rally tribes together like no one before him.
I tried rallying my neighbors for a barbecue once, and only 2 showed up. And one was there to complain about the noise.
Not quite the same thing, Chuck. But, back to Tecumseh. His main goal? Unifying Native American tribes to resist the encroachment of American settlers.
Which brings us to his role in fighting the U.S. Tecumseh realized that as individual tribes, Native Americans were often at a disadvantage. By uniting, they stood a better chance of protecting their lands.
And he wasn't alone. With his brother's spiritual backing, they managed to establish Prophetstown, a large multi-tribal community.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The U.S. saw this alliance as a threat. Enter the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. Although Tecumseh wasn't there, his brother led the fight. Unfortunately, it ended with Prophetstown being razed.
And the US didn't just see Tecumseh as a problem. They suspected British backing, which brings us to Tecumseh's relationship with the British.
It was kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. While the British weren't exactly allies in the traditional sense, they provided arms and support against the US.
Remember, this was around the time of the War of 1812. Tensions were high.
Wave goodbye to sugar-loaded boosts and say hello to Strike Force Energy. The energy drink additive revolutionizing how you power up, all without a single calorie or sugar. Just a squeeze, and you're set for action. Ready to make the switch? Visit strikeforceenergy.com. And for our listeners, spark your savings with an exclusive 20% discount. Just use code UTSALAX24 at checkout. Remember, UTSALAX24. Strike Force Energy, elevate every sip.
Alright, back to the War of 1812. Tecumseh aligned with the British, seeing them as the lesser of two evils. And he played pivotal roles in several famous battles.
Like the Siege of Detroit. That was a major victory. With a blend of strategy and theatrics, Tecumseh and the British managed to make their army seem much larger than it was. Result? The American commander surrendered without a shot being fired.
Not all battles were successes though. Tecumseh's last stand was at the Battle of the Thames in 1813. Despite his fierce resistance, he was killed.
It's said that when he died, a comet was visible in the sky, leading to the belief that his spirit had ascended.
That's a powerful legacy. After the war, without Tecumseh's unifying force, the Native Alliance started to dissolve.
And speaking of legacies, Tecumseh's vision of a united Native American front is remembered even today. While he couldn't stop the tide of American expansion, he left an indelible mark on history.
Absolutely. His efforts to protect native lands and culture, his skills in leadership and diplomacy, and his vision for unity are all reasons he's celebrated today.
Makes my dream of having a street named after me seem quite insignificant.
Well, Chuck, maybe if you rally more than 2 neighbors next time.
Jokes aside, Tecumseh's life offers insights into a tumultuous period in American history and reminds us of the cost of progress and expansion.
Thanks for joining us on this look into the life of Tecumseh. We hope you learned something new and enjoyed our journey back in time.
Don't forget to like, rate, and share our podcast. Your support helps us bring more stories from the annals of history to life.
Until next time, I'm Marco.
And I'm Chuck. Thanks for tuning into the History AI podcast.